Hello, my name is Sana and I love to talk about books and crochet and all things crafty. And in today's video, we have an introduction to a project that I'm going to be doing over the course of 2025. So this is going to be a really quick video where I just give you an overview of how the next 12 months are going to work out when it comes to my book blanket. Now, if you're new here and you haven't heard me talk about my book blanket before, basically what a book blanket is I read a lot and I crochet a lot, and I am combining those two passions into one thing, and I am going to be crocheting up a granny square for every single book that I read in 2025, and then at the end of the year, I'll put all of those granny squares together to make one big blanket. I tried to do this last year, but holy cow, there was a number of reasons why I actually failed in 2024. The two big ones, I went a little too extreme with the granny squares, sometimes really intricate squares for each book that I read, and some of these squares were taking me a day, 2 days to make. And when you read as many books as I do, it was really hard to actually make all of those squares and have time to crochet other things. So I kind of fell off on the blanket due to being overwhelmed by the squares that I was using. And not to mention, I hit a really big reading slump in 2024 as well. And I pretty much didn't read any fictional books from June through till December. And any of the nonfiction books I was reading, I didn't want to share those with the internet. So I fell into a big reading slump. I was getting really overwhelmed by the squares. Thus, the blanket stopped. But we're trying again this year, and I've kind of reeled myself in a little bit. Now I have a series of 5 different squares that I will be crocheting, and the colors of those squares are going to vary depending on the book cover. So again, because I know this might be a little confusing, every time I read a book, I rate it either 1 to 5 stars. So depending on the star rating determines the type of granny square that I crochet. The color of the cover of the book is going to determine the colors that I use to crochet that square. Now, there are a lot of granny square patterns out there, but I'm going to go ahead and just share with you the blog posts of the ones that I have been following. So for all of my 1-star reads that I will read in 2025, I will be crocheting the book This Square. This is just a solid granny square, pretty simple. Like I said, there's a ton of these out there on the internet, but I'm using the Sarah Maker blog post to crochet mine. I can kind of do one of these squares based off of memory, but every now and then I need a bit of a refresher, so that's why I use the blog post. For all of my 2-star reads, I'm going to be crocheting up this square. This is the Seriously Simple Granny Square, and it's a little bit different. It's definitely more circular there in the middle, and I found this over on the Miss Nerissa blog. As always, all links are down below to whatever I'm talking about. For all of my 3-star books that I read, I'm going to be crocheting up this square. Now, this is what most people think of when they think of a granny square. The typical granny square with the 3 double crochet clusters in there. I'm not using a particular pattern for this one. I have done this one enough times that it is ingrained into my brain, but all of my 3-star books is going to be this square, and I chose this one for 3-star books because I do feel like 3 stars is my average that I usually pick. So this is the one that I will be crocheting the most of. For all of my 4-star books, I'm going to be crocheting this square. This one's a little bit different, has a few more chains in there, and gives it just an overall different look. This is from the blog post Nilla K Creates, that's where I found that, and that's for all of my 4-star books. I do rate a lot of books 4 stars, so you'll probably be seeing that square a lot as well. Now, all 4 of those squares are very quick, very easy, don't take me a lot of time to make. Therefore, I shouldn't be overwhelmed when crocheting up these squares for the books that I read. However, 5-star reads, that's a bit of a different story. So I decided if I do rate a book 5 stars, then I'm going to go ahead and take the extra time and crochet an extra fancy square for that book. If a book is that good that I give it 5 stars, I can spend a little bit more time on the square. Most of them, I have a feeling, are going to come from this book. This is called A Modern Guide to Granny Squares by Celine Saman and Liani. I think it's Liani Morgan. But I will be sure to link whatever squares I use down in the description of all of the videos that I do. So just keep an eye on those descriptions. So that's it, a simple introduction to a year-long project that I'm going to be working on the channel. So just as a review, every single book I read, I'm going to rate 1 to 5 stars. Depending on that rating, determines the square that I make. The colors of that square are determined by the book cover. So going forward, every month I will have one video where I discuss the books that I read the previous month, and I share with you my thoughts, what I liked about the books, what I didn't like about the books, and I will be showing you the squares that I made for those books. So just as an example, and you'll see this in next week's video, here we have a 3-star book that I read. So I made this square based off of the book cover, and it is the 3-star style. This was a 4-star book that I read. So that is the 4-star pattern that I had selected, and the colors are that of the cover. So be sure to check out next week's video where I will be sharing with you all of the books that I read in January, what I thought of those books, and the squares that I made. But that's it for today, a really short, quick, easy video that just explains what this book blanket's going to be. That way, down the line, if anybody has any questions or I need a refresher, we can come back to this video and refresh our memory of what I'm trying to do here. But that's all I have to say about that. Thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. You're so wonderful. And I will see you all next week with all of those books. Bye.